Okay, let's unpack this because imagine pulling off like the ultimate existential bait and switch on yourself. You spend decades doing everything exactly quote unquote right according to society,
Right, yeah, you follow the script.
Exactly. You follow the script, you scale the mountain of success, you reach the summit, you plant your flag. And then instead of feeling this profound sense of satisfaction, you look around and realize the peak is just a suffocatingly small box.
Oh man, it is a terrifying realization. I mean, you expect absolute clarity at the top, and instead you just get confinement.
Which is exactly why our deep dive today is stepping into some, frankly, incredibly raw and deeply philosophical territory. We're looking at this highly confrontational, unnamed essay, and it basically serves as an autopsy on the modern crisis of success, specifically focusing on men entering their 40s and 50s.
Yeah, it completely upends our core definitions of stability and masculinity and duty.
It really does. So our mission today is to figure out why doing everything right often leaves people feeling entirely empty, and what it actually takes to wake up from that stagnation.
And to really ground this, I think we have to look at the central case study that they provide right at the beginning. Because, look, this isn't a financial guide. It is a full-blown existential audit.
Right. Enter Mike. So the scenario is set in 2019, and Mike is 44 years old. He's making over $180,000 a year as this high-level executive.
He's got the massive house in the gated suburb.
Yeah, the 2 luxury cars in the driveway, the pristine savings account. I mean, he is the absolute blueprint of the American dream.
Yeah.
But on the night of his birthday, while his entire family is asleep, Mike is just sitting alone in his garage.
Just sitting there in the dark.
Yeah. And he isn't sad. He isn't angry. He is just empty. He actually describes feeling like he's wearing a dead man's suit. Like their life didn't actually belong to him, but he was forced to wear it anyway.
And what he does next really sets the tone for this entire exploration. Because 3 months after that quiet night in the garage, Mike just blows the whole thing up.
He really does.
He makes a choice that literally everyone in his social circle calls completely insane.
He throws it all away. He quits the executive job. He loses the gated house, the cars. He even loses the friends who mocked him for abandoning the script.
Right, because he made them uncomfortable.
Exactly. But he ends up saying, literally with tears in his eyes, that for the first time in 20 years, he finally feels like he is actually alive. It's like grinding through a massive 80-hour video game.
Oh, that's a good way to put it.
Right. You put in the grueling hours, you get all the trophies, you unlock every achievement, and the moment the credit roll starts, you realize you absolutely hated playing the game itself. You just wanted the dopamine hit of the trophies.
Exactly. And when you finally get that platinum trophy, the game is over, and you're just left staring at your own reflection in a dark screen. I mean, if you are sitting there looking at Mike's story right now and thinking he is out of his mind, the harsh reality might be that you are simply terrified of the very freedom he bled for.
Wow. Yeah.
We tend to romanticize the cage simply because we've forgotten what it requires to fly.
So, okay, if the trophies are meaningless and the summit is a box, how do we get tricked into playing this game so obsessively in the first place? Like, how do you get to the point where a luxurious gated house physically feels like a prison?
Well, what's fascinating here is that you have to look at the silent mechanics of the trap itself. It operates on this concept of the golden handcuffs.
The golden handcuffs.
Right. And the critical insight is that these handcuffs, they do not snap shut violently. There's no dramatic moment where you lose your freedom. They slide on in total deceptive silence.
Because, I mean, if they snap shut all at once, you'd fight back.
Precisely. It is entirely incremental. It starts innocently enough with, a good salary one that makes you feel grateful and proud and secure. But then comes the mortgage for a house that's maybe slightly bigger than you need.
Sure.
Then the luxury car payment. Then it's the private school tuition. Then it's the vacations.
Oh, man, the vacations. Going into massive, quiet credit card debt to orchestrate the quote-unquote perfect trip to Cabo, just to post photos to impress neighbors you actively avoid talking to when you take the trash out.
It's absurd when you say it out loud, but it's the reality for so many people. And suddenly you wake up one morning and you aren't a free person anymore. You aren't even really an employee. You are a debtor.
You're just a debtor.
You are functioning solely to service the lifestyle overhead.
Okay, but I have to push back here a little bit because I think a lot of people listening are probably feeling that defensive reflex right now. Wait, isn't providing for your family the exact thing you're supposed to do?
Right, of course.
You get a good job, you buy a safe house in a good neighborhood, you protect your kids. Why is stability suddenly being framed as the villain here?
It's the ultimate defense mechanism, right? Because we all want to feel responsible. But the dark reframing here is that what we call stability isn't actually stable at all. It is disguised stagnation.
Disguised stagnation.
It is a slow suicide wrapped in a comfortable routine.
Mhm.
You think you have built a home, but really you've built a museum for your former self.
A museum for your former self.
Mm.
Wow, that is incredibly bleak.
It really is. Every piece of matching furniture, every framed certificate perfectly aligned on the office wall, it becomes a nail in the coffin of the dynamic, risk-taking person you originally intended to become. You slowly trade the anxiety of adventure for the tranquility of the grave.
And
And that mortgage, it doesn't just pull money from your bank account, it extracts your spine. Every single morning it whispers in your ear, don't risk it. Don't speak up in that meeting. Don't pivot careers. You have debts.
it's exactly like stepping into quicksand. Like you step onto what looks like a completely solid foundation of responsibility, and you feel like a good contributing member of society. But suddenly you're sinking.
Yep.
Every impulse to dream, every desire to change course is instantly filtered through one paralyzing question. Can I afford to lose this?
And the system is designed so that the answer is always no.
Right. You've essentially traded your spine for a credit score, and you've sold your soul for a desirable zip code.
So when your external physical reality is just this series of rigid obligations to maintain that museum, what happens to your internal reality? The psychology of the person living inside that comfortable cage starts to warp.
It has to.
A man in this position, usually crossing that threshold into his 40s, begins to execute a disappearing act. He vanishes while he is still physically in the room.
Like sitting at the head of the dinner table, totally surrounded by family, but being completely suffocatingly alone because your family doesn't really see you anymore. They just see these utility roles. They see the provider. They see the brick wall. They see the ATM.
You become a function, a utility. And the really insidious part is that these men teach their families that they don't feel pain.
Right.
They swallow every stressor, every disappointment, and project this flawless stoicism. And the ultimate tragedy is that their families actually believe them.
I kept thinking of it like becoming an NPC, a non-playable character in the story of your own life.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, you were just standing there in the village, locked in the same spot, handing out resources and gold coins so that everyone else around you can go on their exciting quests. You aren't the main character of your own existence anymore.
Exactly. And when an NPC runs out of gold to hand out, the players just walk past them without a second glance. You're purely an engine for someone else's narrative.
But again, let me play devil's advocate for a second. Society drills into us that there's a quiet nobility in exactly that. Being the rock for your family. Taking the hits so your partner and your kids don't have to. Why reject that sacrifice and label it an internal hemorrhage?
Well, this raises an important question about the myth of masculine silence. We romanticize the stoic, silent burden-bearing, but the silence isn't strength. It is pure, unadulterated fear.
Fear of what, though?
It's fear of collapse. It's an internal hemorrhage with no exit wound. The man sitting silently at the table isn't a hero. He is exhausted. He stays quiet because he is absolutely terrified that if he speaks, if he admits he is lost or hurting, the flawless image he spent 20 years painstakingly building will instantly shatter.
He's afraid they'll figure out that the leader is completely directionless and the guard is actually the one who desperately needs protection.
It is solitary confinement dressed up in the robes of dignity. And to force a confrontation with this reality, the text gives this truly terrifying homework assignment.
Yes, the darkroom exercise. Let me walk you through this because it genuinely gave me chills.
It's intense.
It is. The challenge is that tonight, when everyone else in the house is asleep, the TV is off and it is completely quiet, you do something genuinely scary. You go sit in a dark room. No phone to scroll and numb your brain. No music to fill the silence. Just you, the dark, and your own thoughts. And you have to ask yourself one single question. Are you okay?
And the single rule of the exercise is that you cannot accept the canned answer.
Right. You cannot use the automatic, I'm fine, just a little tired reflex that you give to the barista or your coworkers. You have to force the actual truth up through the floorboards. And the truth usually sounds like, I am exhausted. I am terrified. I miss the boy who used to dream. I feel intensely guilty because I have everything society says I should want, and I'm still completely inexplicably miserable.
And admitting that is not a weakness. I mean, the core issue isn't that you are suffering. The issue is that you have convinced yourself that silent suffering is the highest form of maturity. You have to sit in that dark room, let the silence ring in your ears, and face the agonizing fact that you might not be living the life you actually wanted.
But here's where it gets really interesting, though. Because you can lie to your family. You can even try to lie to yourself in that dark room and aggressively push those feelings back down into the basement. But you absolutely cannot lie to your biology.
No, you can't.
This isn't just an abstract philosophical debate. The somatic toll, the physical cost of this suppression is staggering.
It's the moment philosophy collides with physiological reality. There are actual Harvard studies tracking men in their 40s and 50s.
Yeah, I saw this.
The data shows that men in this age bracket who chronically suppress their emotions, who swallow their stress and live in this state of quiet desperation, are 47% more likely to develop heart disease. 47%.
Almost 50% more likely to literally have their heart fail them. But let's dig into the why of that, because it's not magic. How does being sad in a really nice house literally break your heart?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture of human biology, it comes down to the autonomic nervous system. When you live in a constant state of suppressed emotional truth, your brain perceives your environment as a literal threat. It doesn't matter that the threat is a mortgage or a miserable marriage rather than a tiger. Your amygdala fires, and it floods your system with cortisol and adrenaline. You are locked in fight or flight mode.
But you aren't fighting and you aren't fleeing. You're just sitting in a cubicle or sitting in traffic.
Exactly. So those stress hormones have nowhere to go. They sit in your bloodstream, creating systemic, chronic inflammation. This inflammation literally damages the lining of your blood vessels. It hardens your arteries. Your body is an incredibly intelligent entity, and it records every single spiritual betrayal you commit against yourself.
Spiritual betrayal, wow.
Yeah. Every time you pushed through emotional agony and called it resilience, every time you stayed in a job you loathed and called it responsibility, your body kept the receipt.
I love the phrasing in the text of viewing physical pain as letters of resignation from your body. Like when your knee suddenly gives out on the stairs or you wake up and your lower back feels like it's carrying anvils, we always just brush it off. We say, oh, I'm just getting old, my warranty's expiring. But those aren't just arbitrary signs of aging. They are physical protests.
The body is flat out refusing to carry you through meaningless battles anymore. It is an active rebellion.
It's exactly like a labor union going on strike. Think about it. Your brain, the management, keeps demanding these grueling overtime hours. It demands you keep producing for a lifestyle structure that the workers your body secretly despise. And management just keeps ignoring the formal complaints.
Exactly. And when management ignores those initial strike demands, the body shuts down the whole factory. It creates physical pain to force a negotiation because you absolutely refuse to listen to reason. I mean, you didn't exhaust your body climbing actual mountains. You exhausted it sitting perfectly still, waiting for someday that never materialized.
Waiting for someday.
The pain is your body's desperate attempt to wake you up before the inflammation stops your heart completely.
So if the factory is shutting down, your biology is rebelling, and your mind is suffocating in this golden cage, how do you actually renegotiate the contract? Do you have to burn the whole building to the ground like Mike did? Are we saying that throwing away the house, the cars, and the career is the only valid way out?
Fortunately, no. There is a contrasting path, and that comes in the form of Tom. This kind of moves us from diagnosing the disease to exploring the cure.
Right, Tom. So Tom is a 50-year-old, highly successful architect. And Tom's story really resonated with me because it's so quiet, but it's so intense. Tom admits that he was secretly waiting for a catastrophe. He was waiting for a terrible diagnosis or maybe a mild heart attack. He wanted some massive external force to intervene and give him the undeniable permission to stop working so hard because he's too terrified to just choose to stop on his own.
Which perfectly illustrates that 47% statistic we just talked about.
Yeah.
He was almost hoping for his biology to fail so he wouldn't have to take responsibility for making a hard choice.
Right.
But the catastrophe didn't come. So one ordinary Tuesday morning, Tom just looked across the kitchen island at his wife and deployed what the text calls jagged honesty. He didn't yell, he didn't break anything, he just said, "I am not happy."
And the relief in her response is incredible to me. She just looks back at him, takes a breath, and says, "Neither am I."
The pretense was instantly broken. And what's crucial to understand here is that Tom didn't follow Mike's explosive, scorched earth path.
No.
Tom didn't march into his architecture firm and quit that day. He didn't sell his house or leave his family. But he stopped pretending everything was fine. He started talking about his actual feelings. He went into the basement and found his old sketch pads from college. He started writing again.
He remodeled his life instead of bulldozing it. He took the existing structure and fundamentally changed how he lived inside it.
Yeah.
And a couple of years later, he publishes a small book of his sketches and thoughts.
Yeah.
He didn't become a millionaire from it, but he achieved something exponentially rarer, peace with himself. He finally looked in the bathroom mirror and stopped hating the guy looking back.
It was a quiet victory, but it was an authentic one. You would trade the gated house, the luxury cars, and the prestigious title for that kind of internal peace and an absolute heartbeat. And deep down, you know it.
So if Tom proves you don't necessarily have to lose everything to escape the cage, what is the core requirement for liberation? Because it sounds like you can just lightly remodel your hobbies and be fine.
Well, it's deeper than just finding a hobby. Changing your life after 40 does mean losing things.
Yeah.
There is always a cost to authenticity. You might lose friends who only liked the compliant, silent version of you. You might lose that flawless, pristine reputation of being the responsible man who never makes a wave or causes an inconvenience. But you have to flip the risk assessment completely on its head. The question isn't what you lose if you change. The question is, what will you lose if you don't change?
You lose the rest of your life.
You lose your remaining years, you lose your self-respect, you lose the chance to be actually genuinely present with the people you love instead of just being their ATM. The grave is not the end of the pain. The grave is simply the end of the opportunity to do anything about it.
So what does this all mean? When we distill this massive raw exploration down, the through line is pretty undeniable. Stability without intrinsic meaning isn't safety, it's just comfortable stagnation.
Yeah, exactly.
True human maturity isn't about bearing a crushing load in total silence until your heart gives out. It's about having the sheer courage to shatter the compliant, people-pleasing version of yourself. It's about reclaiming your right to want something for you, not just to service your mortgage or uphold your neighborhood reputation.
To cement that, I want to leave you with a haunting visualization from the text. Close your eyes and imagine yourself 15 years from now. You are 55 or 65 years old. You are sitting in the exact same chair you are in right now, having changed absolutely nothing about your life. Look into the eyes of that older version of yourself. Are they dead inside?
Oh, wow.
That old man is watching you right now, and he is screaming inside of you, begging you not to kill him before he's even born by choosing another hour of comfortable distraction over taking a real, terrifying risk. He is begging you to be brave.
That image of the older self begging for a chance to actually live is incredibly powerful. But I want to leave you with one final thought, something beyond just your own internal landscape. We obsess over the disappointment of our future selves if we stay in the cage. But consider the people around you right now, your partner, your kids. We convince ourselves we are hiding our misery so well, playing the stoic, invincible provider perfectly. But what if they already see the dead man suit you're wearing? What if the ultimate plot twist is that finally breaking out of your cage wouldn't disappoint them or ruin their stability at all? What if your jagged honesty is the exact thing that gives them permission to finally break free from their own silent cages too?
That is a profound implication. The courage to break the mold and be honest might actually be the greatest act of provision you could ever offer your family.
A completely different, deeply authentic kind of stability. Well, thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We hope this exploration gave you something meaningful to think about the next time you find yourself sitting in a dark room. Take care of yourselves out there, and we'll catch you on the next one.